Tom stared at the massive holographic sign floating above the entrance of the Galactic Academy of Engineering and Safety. The blue letters glowed with an intensity that matched the seriousness of the institution. Below the main sign, a scrolling message displayed. Safety first, second, and third, because fourth isn't safe enough. He adjusted his standard-issue safety helmet, which the Academy required everyone to wear at all times, even in the gardens. His was the only one that showed signs of wear and tear, with small scratches that told stories of actual use rather than pristine protocol adherence. The Academy halls buzzed with the gentle hum of multiple safety field generators. Students of various species walked in perfectly straight lines, exactly 2.3 meters apart, as mandated by Intergalactic Safety Regulation 47B, subsection 12. Tom couldn't help but grin every time he saw them do this. "Student Tom," a melodious voice called out, "you are walking at a 3.2-degree angle from the designated safety path line." Tom looked up to see Professor Blue, whose crystalline body structure sparkled under the safety-regulated lighting. Like all members of the crystalline species, the professor's form was perfectly geometric, with angles that would make a mathematician weep with joy. "Sorry, Prof," Tom said, deliberately staying on his slightly diagonal path. "Just taking the shortest route to class." "The shortest route is not always the safest route," Professor Blue chimed, their crystalline structure vibrating with concern. As stated in the Academy Safety Manual, page 4394, which I have thoroughly memorized, Tom interrupted with a smile. He hadn't, of course, but he'd skimmed the important bits, all 12,000 pages of them. Inside the Advanced Safety Protocols classroom, Tom took his seat among 20 alien students. He was the only human in the class, part of the first exchange program between Earth and the United Systems. The aliens had been fascinated by humanity's rapid advancement in space travel, though they found their methods distressingly informal. Today, Professor Blue announced, their crystal form shifting to teaching configuration, "We will begin our comprehensive study of species-specific safety approaches. Each student will present their civilization's standard safety protocols for basic industrial operations." A Graviton student raised their gravity field. "Professor, will we be using the safety-approved presentation template?" "Naturally," Professor Blue responded. "All presentations must follow the standard safety communication format. Version 47.2, with triple redundancy in all visual aids." Tom raised his hand. "Quick question. Can we include practical demonstrations?" The entire class turned to look at him with their various sensory organs. They had learned to be wary of Tom's practical demonstrations. "If," Professor Blue emphasized, their crystal structure briefly flickering with anxiety, "they follow all 849 safety guidelines for classroom demonstrations." "Great," Tom said cheerfully. "I've got some great historical footage from the construction of Earth's first skyscrapers." A collective shudder ran through the class. They had seen human historical documents before. The images of construction workers sitting on steel beams hundreds of meters in the air, eating lunch without even a safety harness, had caused 3 students to enter temporary hibernation from shock. The rest of the class period was spent reviewing the proper safety protocols for giving presentations about safety protocols. Tom counted at least 15 different redundancy systems just for advancing to the next slide. As he left class, Tom's personal communicator buzzed. It was a message from Mark, another human who worked in the Academy's maintenance department. "Hey Tom, you're going to love this. They just installed a quadruple redundant safety system on the coffee makers in the staff room. Takes 20 minutes to make a cup of coffee now. Want to help me show them our old Earth coffee maker tomorrow? You know, for educational purposes." Tom grinned. This was exactly why he had chosen to come to the Academy. Sometimes, the best way to teach was to demonstrate, and humans were very good at demonstrations. Looking up at the ever-present safety field generators, Tom thought about his upcoming presentation. It was time to show his alien classmates why humans sometimes laughed at excessive safety protocols, and more importantly, why that laughter had helped humanity survive and thrive. First, though, he had to fill out the safety forms for bringing an unauthorized beverage preparation device onto Academy grounds. All 237 of them. The Advanced Safety Protocols classroom hummed with the sound of 20 different environmental support systems running at full power. Each student sat in their safety-certified presentation chairs, surrounded by personal force fields that Professor Blue insisted were necessary for unexpected presentation accidents. First presenter, Professor Blue announced, their crystalline form gleaming under the safety-regulated lights. Please begin your species safety protocol presentation. A blob-like student named Green moves to the front. Their presentation on slime-based construction safety lasted 45 minutes, with 15 minutes dedicated to the proper viscosity requirements for safety railings. Tom tried not to fall asleep as the next student, an energy being, spent 30 minutes explaining why their species needed 7 different types of surge protectors for changing the light bulb. And now, Professor Blue announced, their voice carrying a slight tremor, Student Tom will present Earth's industrial safety protocols. Tom walked to the front of the class, deliberately ignoring the safety path marked on the floor. He pulled out a small device from his pocket. Before I start, he said with a grin, I need to disable the safety field around the presentation area. My historical footage interferes with it. The class gasped. Professor Blue's crystalline structure vibrated with anxiety. Student Tom, that is against Regulation 7756B. Don't worry, Tom said, already typing the override code Mark had given him. I've got written permission from the Academy Board. Took only 3 days to get all the signatures. The safety field flickered and died. Tom activated his presentation device, and a 3-dimensional image appeared in the air. This, he said, is the Empire State Building under construction. Earth year 1930. The alien students watched in horror as the image showed humans walking on narrow steel beams hundreds of meters above the ground. No safety fields, no anti-gravity backups, just humans, their balance, and their trust in their own abilities. Here's lunch break, Tom continued cheerfully. The image changed to show workers sitting on beams, eating sandwiches and sharing thermoses of coffee. One worker was actually throwing a baseball to his colleague on another beam. A small alien student in the front row fainted. But, Professor Blue stuttered, their crystal structure turning a pale shade of distress. Where are the quadruple redundant safety harnesses? The emergency teleporters? The psychological support drones? We didn't have those, Tom explained. We had something else instead, human adaptability and calculated risk assessment. He changed the image again, showing modern construction sites. We did eventually develop better safety equipment, but we never let safety slow down progress. Notice how our workers still move freely, making quick decisions based on experience and judgment. The class watched as a modern construction worker quickly scaled a support beam to reach a colleague who needed help, bypassing the safety elevator because it would have taken too long. This is madness, a gaseous student whispered. This is humanity, Tom corrected. We understand safety, but we also understand that sometimes the safest option is to move fast and trust our instincts. Just then, Tom's communicator buzzed. It was another message from Mark. Emergency staff meeting. They're trying to install auto-lock safety features on all maintenance access panels. Could take hours to reach critical systems in an emergency. Need your help convincing them it's a bad idea. Tom smiled at the class. And speaking of safety versus efficiency, I've got a practical demonstration coming up. Professor, would you mind if I bring the class to observe a real-world safety protocol discussion? Professor Blue's crystal structure vibrated with uncertainty. On one hand, it would be educational. On the other hand, it involved Tom, which meant it probably violated at least 50 safety regulations. Before the professor could decide, the Academy's lights flickered ominously. Tom's smile widened. Sometimes the universe just had perfect timing. The classroom lights flickered again, and this time they stayed dim. The gentle hum of the Academy's power system changed to a low, troubled growl. "Attention all Academy personnel and students," the automated safety system announced in a calm voice. "A Level 2 power fluctuation has been detected. Please remain in your current locations while safety protocols are initiated." Professor Blue's crystalline form brightened with relief. "Excellent. The safety systems are responding as designed. We will now witness the proper handling of a minor emergency." Tom wasn't so sure. He checked his communicator, reading Mark's rapid messages. "Main reactors acting weird. Safety systems are slowing everything down. Can't get to the control room. Doors keep auto-locking." "Tom, this is bad. Really bad." The classroom's emergency doors suddenly slid shut with a heavy thunk. Lights switched to emergency power, bathing everything in a dim red glow. "Safety Protocol 47C has been activated," the automated system announced. "All rooms have been sealed for occupant protection. Please remain calm and review your emergency procedure manuals." Tom walked to the sealed door, ignoring Professor Blue's protests about leaving his safety-approved seat. He pressed his hand against the metal, feeling the subtle vibration from the Academy's power system. "Professor," he said, turning around, "what's powering the Academy's main reactor?" "The latest in safe energy production," Professor Blue replied proudly. "A contained quantum fold, regulated by 23 different safety systems, each with their own backup systems." The vibration under Tom's hand grew stronger. He'd felt something like this before, during his engineering training on Earth. It hadn't ended well then, either. "And if those safety systems detect a problem," Tom continued, "they shut everything down one step at a time, right? To prevent any sudden changes." "Of course. Sudden changes are inherently dangerous. The gradual shutdown procedure takes approximately 4 hours to complete, ensuring maximum safety." Tom checked his communicator again. Mark had sent a diagram of the reactor's current status. It wasn't good. "Professor," Tom said, trying to stay calm, "what happens if the quantum fold needs to be shut down in less than 4 hours?" The classroom lights flickered again, longer this time. The vibration in the walls grew stronger. "That's impossible," Professor Blue insisted, but their crystalline form had taken on a worried tinge. The safety systems would never allow such a dangerous situation to develop. Tom pulled up the reactor diagram on the classroom's main display. The alien students crowded around, their various sensory organs fixed on the pulsing red warning indicators. "Look here," Tom pointed. "The quantum fold is becoming unstable. The safety systems are trying to shut it down slowly, but that's making the instability worse." "Student Tom," Professor Blue's voice reached a pitch that made the crystal walls vibrate, "step away from that panel immediately. Tampering with safety equipment is a Class 1 violation." Tom ignored the warning, his fingers moving quickly over the control panel's inner workings. "Mark, you there?" He spoke into his communicator. "Here," Mark's voice crackled back. "Stuck in the maintenance tunnel on Level 2. These safety doors are driving me crazy." "Good. You're right where I need you." Tom pulled a wire free, causing several alien students to cover their sensory organs in horror. "The environmental system connects to the main computer network. If I can override it here." Professor Blue moved forward, their crystalline form flashing warning colors. "I must insist that you stop. This violates 47 different safety protocols." "Professor," Tom said without looking up, "in about 2 hours, this whole academy is going to be a very safe pile of rubble. The quantum fold is collapsing. Those safety protocols you trust so much, they're making it worse." The room rumbled again, stronger this time. A few ceiling panels shook loose, only to be caught by the room's safety field. "But the automated systems," one of the alien students started, "are designed to prevent accidents, not fix them." Tom finished. He connected 2 wires, causing sparks that made the entire class flinch. "Sometimes you need to move fast and break things to prevent bigger things from breaking." His communicator lit up with Mark's voice. The safety doors in my section just flickered. What did you do? Gave you a way out, Tom grinned. I'm sending you a path to the reactor control room. All the safety doors in your way should be glitching just enough to let you through. Professor Blue's crystal structure was now rapidly cycling through warning colors. This is unprecedented. The safety systems are designed to be unhackable. They're designed to be unhackable by anyone following the rules, Tom corrected, still working. But humans, we see rules as guidelines, especially in emergencies. The Academy's automated voice cut in. Warning. Unauthorized access detected in environmental systems. Initiating Security Protocol 95D. Not today, Tom muttered, making one final connection. The classroom's main display screen suddenly showed a maze of corridors, with a blinking dot representing Mark's position. I see it, Mark reported. Moving now. These doors are fighting me, but they're opening just enough. The alien students had gathered around the display, watching in fascination as Mark's dot moved through the Academy's corridors, taking routes that violated every safety regulation in the book. He's moving through high radiation areas, one student gasped. The radiation shielding is still working, Tom explained. The safety protocols just say nobody should go there, but sometimes the fastest path isn't the safest one. But the regulations clearly state. Professor Blue began. Another violent shake interrupted them. The lights flickered ominously, and a new alarm joined the chorus of warnings. Warning, the automated system announced. Quantum fold instability reaching critical levels. Emergency shutdown will complete in 2 hours, 37 minutes. We don't have that long, Tom said grimly. He looked at his alien classmates and professor. I know this goes against everything you've been taught. But right now, you have to choose. Follow the safety protocols and definitely lose the Academy, or trust the crazy humans who are breaking all the rules to save it. Professor Blue's crystal structure froze for a moment, then slowly shifted to a new configuration Tom had never seen before. What do you need us to do? The professor asked quietly. Tom smiled. First, we need to override the main computer's safety lockouts, and for that, we're going to need everyone's help, even if it means breaking a few hundred more protocols. The alien students looked at each other nervously, then back at their screens showing Mark's steady progress toward the reactor. It was time to learn why humans sometimes had to laugh at safety protocols. By breaking them all, the classroom had transformed into an impromptu control center. Alien students worked at their stations, each one breaking more safety protocols than they had ever thought possible. Mark, what's your status? Tom asked into his communicator, watching the blinking dot that showed his friend's position. Almost at the reactor control room, Mark replied, breathing heavily. Had to climb through a maintenance shaft. Pretty sure that's against about 50 regulations. Tom looked at the main display, where the quantum fold's instability readings kept climbing. The automated system's voice hadn't stopped listing safety violations for the past 10 minutes. Student Green, Tom called out to the blob-like alien. How's that computer override coming? Green's gelatinous form rippled with concentration. I have bypassed 16 safety layers, but the main computer keeps trying to reinitiate them. It doesn't understand why we're doing this. That's the problem with automated safety systems, Tom said, rewiring another panel. They can't think outside their programming. Sometimes you need human creativity, or alien creativity, he added with a grin at his classmates. Professor Blue's crystal structure had taken on a new pattern that seemed to indicate deep thought. I begin to understand. The safety protocols. They're not wrong, exactly, but they're too rigid, Tom finished. Sometimes you need to bend the rules to prevent them from breaking completely. The Academy shook again, harder than before. Warning lights flashed across every screen. Warning, the automated system announced. Quantum fold collapse imminent. Recommended evacuation time, 45 minutes. Please proceed to your designated safety shelters in an orderly fashion. Got it. Mark's voice came through. I'm in the reactor control room. But Tom, This is bad. The safety systems won't let me access anything without proper authorization. Tom turned to the energy being in the class. Remember how you showed us your species needs 7 types of surge protectors? Think you could create a controlled power surge instead? The energy being glowed brighter. That would violate every safety principle we have. Exactly, Tom smiled. Sometimes you fight fire with fire, or in this case, fight safety systems with the very things they're trying to prevent. Understanding flickered through the energy being's form. They moved to a power conduit and began to pulse with increasing intensity. Mark, get ready, Tom commanded. When the surge hits, you'll have about 3 seconds before the backup systems kick in. That's your window to initiate emergency shutdown. Professor Blue's crystal structure vibrated with anxiety. 3 seconds. The safety protocols require at least 3 hours for a proper shutdown sequence. Humans don't always have 3 hours, Tom said. Sometimes we only have 3 seconds, and we make them count. The energy being pulsed brighter. Green's blob form rippled as they held back the computer's safety protocols. Every alien student watched, their various sensory organs fixed on the displays. Now, Tom shouted. The energy being released their surge. The classroom lights flickered wildly. For a moment, every screen went dark. I'm in. Mark's voice crackled through static. Initiating emergency shutdown. Hang on to something. The Academy's automated voice began listing violations at a speed that made its artificial voice crack. Warning. Multiple safety protocols violated. Emergency shutdown procedure violation. Unauthorized access. Improper sequence. Danger. Danger. Tom grabbed onto a desk as the floor beneath them shuddered. He looked around at his alien classmates, each one breaking every rule they'd ever been taught, all to save the Academy. This, he said with pride, is why humans laugh at safety protocols. Not because we don't care about safety. The lights went out completely, then slowly came back on. But because sometimes, he finished, being too safe is the most dangerous thing of all. The emergency lights switched to standard lighting, and the gentle hum of normal power returned to the Academy. In the classroom, Tom helped Green regain their blob shape after the excitement had caused them to spread a bit too thin. Warning, the automated system announced, sounding almost confused. Emergency shutdown complete. Safety protocols violated, but Academy systems functioning normally. This scenario does not compute. Mark's voice came through the communicator, tired but happy. Quantum fold is stable. Had to break about 200 safety protocols to do it. But hey, at least we still have an Academy to get in trouble with. Professor Blue's crystal structure had taken on a remarkable new pattern, one that somehow managed to look both worried and impressed at the same time. Student Tom, I believe we require a discussion about what just happened. Of course, Tom grinned, sitting on a desk instead of his safety-approved chair. Let's start with why the safety protocols nearly got everyone killed. The alien students gathered around, their various sensory organs focused on Tom with new interest. Even the ones who had initially fainted at his construction site images were now paying close attention. The first thing you need to understand, Tom explained, is that humans don't ignore safety protocols because we're reckless. We ignore them when following them becomes more dangerous than breaking them. The energy being who had helped create the surge glowed thoughtfully, like when a slow, safe shutdown would have led to a catastrophic collapse. Exactly. Tom pointed at them. Safety protocols are written for ideal situations, but emergencies are never ideal. That's why humans learn to think on their feet. Professor Blue floated forward. But how do you know which protocols to break and which to follow? Without a proper decision matrix and risk assessment formula. Experience, Tom interrupted gently. Real, hands-on experience. That's why humans insist on practical training, not just theoretical knowledge. We learn by doing, sometimes by failing, and always by adapting. Mark walked into the classroom, his maintenance uniform slightly singed but wearing a wide smile. And sometimes we learn by breaking every safety rule in the book and living to tell about it. The alien students murmured among themselves, their various communication methods creating an interesting mixture of sounds, lights, and vibrations. "I have reviewed the incident data," one of the mechanical students announced. The human solution, while highly irregular, achieved a positive outcome with an efficiency rating of 94.3%, but it violated 192 safety protocols. Another student pointed out. 193, Mark corrected cheerfully. "I had to use my coffee mug to wedge open a stuck panel. Pretty sure that's against regulation something or other." Professor Blue's crystal structure shifted into what Tom had learned was their lecture configuration. But this time, it was different. Less rigid, more adaptive. "Perhaps," the professor said slowly, "we have been too focused on following safety protocols and not focused enough on understanding why they exist in the first place." "Now you're getting it," Tom smiled. "Safety protocols are tools, not chains. They're meant to protect us, not restrict us from doing what needs to be done." The automated system suddenly spoke up. "Attention. New safety protocol being implemented based on recent events. Designation: Human Contingency Protocol 1. The entire class turned to look at the nearest speaker. "In the event of catastrophic system failure," the system continued, "standard safety protocols may be overridden if the following conditions are met. 1. Standard procedures would result in greater danger. 2. Alternative solution has reasonable chance of success. 3. A human approves the exception." Tom burst out laughing. Did the safety system just make breaking safety protocols into a new safety protocol? "Well," Mark grinned, "if you can't beat them, make them join you." Professor Blue's crystal structure sparkled with what might have been amusement. "I believe, Student Tom, that this calls for a complete revision of our safety curriculum. Perhaps you would like to help design the new practical portions." Tom looked at his alien classmates, each one forever changed by today's events. "I'd be happy to." First lesson: sometimes the safest way to do something is to do it fast. 3 weeks after the quantum fold incident, the Advanced Safety Protocols classroom looked very different. The rigid rows of safety-approved seating had been replaced with a more flexible arrangement. Even Professor Blue's crystal structure seemed more relaxed these days. "Today," the professor announced, "we will be conducting a practical emergency response exercise. Safety gear is required, but running is permitted." Tom sat back in his chair, a normal chair now, not the over-engineered safety throne they'd used before, and watched his classmates prepare. Each one wore standard safety equipment, but they moved with new confidence. "Remember," Tom called out to them, "safety gear is only as good as the person wearing it. Trust your training. Trust your instincts." The energy-being student glowed with excitement. "Like last week when we learned to redirect power surges instead of just blocking them." "Exactly," Mark said from the doorway. He'd been promoted to emergency response instructor after the incident. Sometimes the best way to handle danger is to control it, not avoid it. The classroom's main display showed the Academy's new safety statistics. Incident response times had dropped by 82%, while successful resolution rates had gone up by 67%. The bottom of the screen proudly displayed Human Contingency Protocols, because sometimes you need to move fast. Green, the blob student, oozed over to Tom's desk. "Did you see the new maintenance access panels? They have emergency override handles now. Simple mechanical backups, just like you suggested." "Yeah," Tom grinned. "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. A handle can't be hacked, can't malfunction, and never needs a software update." Professor Blue floated to the center of the room. "Students, please observe the latest addition to our curriculum." The display changed to show a construction site at the Academy. Alien workers moved with newfound efficiency, still following safety protocols but not being paralyzed by them. One worker even used a human-style tool belt for quick access to equipment. "Is that?" Tom leaned forward. "Are they really doing that?" The image zoomed in to show several alien students, fully equipped with safety gear, practicing how to walk on support beams. They weren't very high off the ground, and they had every possible safety measure in place, but they were doing it. We call it human confidence training. Professor Blue explained, their crystal structure showing pride. Learning to trust our abilities while maintaining reasonable safety measures. Mark laughed. Never thought I'd see the day when aliens would voluntarily leave their safety bubbles. Oh, we still believe in safety, one of the mechanical students chirped. We just now understand that too much safety can be unsafe. The automated safety system, which had been reprogrammed with the new protocols, chimed in. Reminder, lunch break in 10 minutes. Anti-gravity safety fields are optional in the cafeteria. Please try not to spill your beverages while practicing human-style balance techniques. Tom looked around at his alien classmates. Green was practicing quick-form shake changes for emergency responses. The energy being was learning to create controlled power surges for system resets. Even the most cautious students were studying human emergency procedures with interest. You know what the best part is? He said to Mark. They're not just copying us. They're taking our ideas and improving them with their own knowledge. Professor Blue's crystal structure sparkled. Indeed, we have learned that true safety comes not from rigid rules, but from understanding, adaptation, and, what do humans call it? Ah yes, thinking on your feet. Speaking of which, Mark grinned. Wait until they see next week's lesson on emergency elevator shaft climbing. One step at a time, Tom laughed. Though I have to admit, watching a blob try to climb an elevator shaft should be interesting. The Academy's main computer made an announcement. Update complete. New safety protocol accepted. Sometimes the safest option is to take a risk. This does not compute, but human experience indicates it is correct. Tom smiled. The aliens hadn't just learned to laugh at safety protocols. They'd learned when to take them seriously and when to bend them. And that, he thought, was the safest approach of all.